So hi and welcome to another video. So this is a little bit different from my regular stuff. I'm going to be focusing on a news event that has happened today. And I was going to do a patch rundown today, but yeah, 100 of 400 ArenaNet employees were just canned, and I want to talk a bit about that. So this video is going to be split up into two sections. One will be talking about the news, and the second half will be talking about my channel and a bit of discussion about that. Might also splice some recordings in just to mix things up a bit. And I've always wanted to say this because I've heard other YouTubers say it. Let's just jump right into it. So, as I previously mentioned, 100 of 400 employees are out the door. They've been booted unceremoniously. Well, maybe ceremoniously, I don't know, I wasn't there. But here's the party line, right? The layoffs were announced last week after NCSoft cancelled 2 unannounced projects. So, I'm gonna sort of boil this down for you. Apparently, there were things going on within ArenaNet that weren't to do with Guild Wars 2. Or if they were to do with Guild Wars 2, they weren't directly linked. And some employees, I don't know if it's going to be 100, but some employees apparently were working on these other things. Apparently one was a mobile title. And the party line that is being shared with us is that these projects, these side projects that weren't Guild Wars 2 related, are being cancelled. And because they're being cancelled because there was insufficient progress on them, or something. Party line is that this will not affect Guild Wars 2. Now, I personally don't believe this. It's far too neat to to have this as just the flat reason why they've canned employees. And there's a couple of things why. Like, Reddit's keeping a fairly up-to-date list of everyone who's been laid off versus people that are definitely staying. And there are some absolute titans here. I want to draw attention to 2 of them, as Reddit in fact has as well. And that's Gaile Grey and Josh Foreman. So Gaile Grey leaving is... If you've ever been involved in the Guild Wars 2 community, then you will know who Gaile Grey is. She's been the most, direct dev with regards to communicating with the communicating with us, basically, to keep us updated on things. Whenever there's been a scandal, Mount Gate, or the other things, gem store related scandals and stuff like that. It's always been Gaile Grey has finally broken the silence about things, and I've always associated her with being sort of hamstrung more than she had to be. She probably wanted to be more forthcoming because she was always very straightforward and never did that sort of politician speak. When she finally did contact us, I don't know why I keep highlighting her name. It's because, yes, we get it. That's her name. But, so, goodbye, beloved Guild Wars 2 community. I love you all and wish you well in the future. So this is a massive thing. There's lots of discussion about this. Kind of some people think that some of the long-lasting employees at ArenaNet have sort of fallen on their sword, so to speak, because the older members of the, not older, but the longer members of the company might have had more raises and thus be worth more. And if NCSoft's goal is to save money, then canning some of the long wow, I'm having trouble speaking. The long employees will actually have a better effect on their budget than some of the short-term employees. And that sort of brings me nicely to Josh Foreman. So, this guy has been at the company for 16 years. He worked all the way through Guild Wars 2 and most of the way through Guild Wars 1 as well. In fact, I think that's basically, I think Guild Wars 1 is 16 years old. It's around then. It is around then. So he's been around a long time. It's unreal, that this guy's leaving. It's yeah, it's bad. So We have a long-time community favorite leaving. We have long-time devs leaving. Doesn't seem to be like this sort of idea that NCSoft has that it was all about some sort of side project, you know? These people would not have been well, I mean, Gaile Grey may have been, I don't know, but Josh Foreman would not have been working on a side project when he's been with Guild Wars 1 since day one, you know? So, I think this is a crock of shit. I do not believe that NCSoft has only fired, you know, people with regards to 2 unannounced projects and cancelled those. I think this is a party line. So, there's one point towards panicking. And it's a good point. However, if NCSoft is making a party line, then perhaps their goal is to keep Guild Wars 2 running and efficient, and maybe even, you know, salvage some kind of win out of this. So, I don't believe the PR nonsense that they've come up with, but some would say that there would need to be some sort of PR move regardless, you know, even if they were planning to do a full WildStar on it. For those of you who don't know, NCSoft recently canned in its entirety WildStar, and I got the experience of that vicariously through a friend of mine who plays WildStar a lot, and has just basically, you know, like, been devastated by the game dying. You know, the amount of hours I've put into Guild Wars 2, you know, I've had conversations with her saying, you know, I can't even imagine what it would be like if this was Guild Wars 2 that was happening. So I'm pretty afraid, you know. It's pretty scary. But then, you know, the thousands upon thousands of hours I've spent in this game. If it were to be closed, yeah, it would be bad. And here's another thing, right? They did this, or they decided to do these layoffs on patch day. And Mike, you might be saying, like, why are you complaining that there's not going to be a patch? Because these people have lost their jobs. I'm talking about this from NCSoft's perspective, right? They decide that they're going to lay off. There's an update coming to the game, and they lay off people on the day that the update is coming. And it's a fairly momentous one as well. It's this Warclaw, right? People have been looking forward to this for a little while, you know? And the mounts have, like, been a big hit with people, and people really want to tame the Warclaw, you know? They're, like, doing like this thing, the World vs. World week-long bonus. I was looking to get into World vs. World, you know? It's not something I play very much frequently, but with the idea of taming the Warclaw, that could be fun, you know? There could be all sorts of fun times ahead. So all this has been delayed, right? There's going to be no patch today, hence no patch rundown. And it strikes me as just very strange timing. Like, if you were going to do this, why do it literally on the day there's going to be an update? It kind of says that you're putting, like, from an NCSoft's perspective, it's like you're putting the financial well-being of you as a publisher ahead of the actual quality of the game, which, and that to me is a very worrying move, because this has now been delayed literally to February, from February 26th to the 5th of March, so we won't get this now today, and the balance patch that comes with it, which I always sort of am kind of interested in. And yeah, I am feeling a bit panicky. I have to say, I'm feeling a bit panicky. I feel like, yeah, yes, I've said yes already, but yeah, definitely. So as a player, what should you do? What should you be doing right now? Well, right now, I don't know. That's a stupid question. But in general, like, it's a bad thing. Like, this is a section of this on the Reddit. Like, should I quit the game right now? You know, you got to make this decision for yourself. I don't think, given, like, the fact that Guild Wars 1 is still running, and that's a big thing, right? Guild Wars 1 is still running. Give that a moment, you know? Like, are you gonna panic about Guild Wars 2 and Guild Wars 1 is still running? You know, like, don't know. But so I'm gonna keep playing. Should you put your money into it? That's an interesting question. You know, should you put money into the gem store, stuff like that? I guess it's down to individual choice. You know, if they start announcing like an expansion or something like that, you know, that's like a move in the positive direction. So maybe as a player, what you should do is log in and, you know, buy some gems or something. Like, maybe that's the moral move here. And, you know, write a heartfelt message to those poor developers who have been fired today. And at the end of the day, that's what's happened. You know, it's quite a loss for a number of people, which is really sad. But don't quit. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, I wanted to have a section where I talked about my channel a bit. So I'm going to do that now. So if you're just here for the news, you can feel free to scoot. Although I would appreciate your opinions on this. And yeah, so just going to lay it out there. Recently, some of you may have noticed since my Understanding the Chronomancer meta video, I've been feeling a little bit demotivated to make videos. And indeed with Guild Wars in general. Been sort of cutting down my hours in Guild Wars 2 to sort of maybe a little bit before the raids so I can practice a bit, then do the raids, and then sort of logging off afterwards. You know, I still keep in touch with my Guild Wars 2 friends outside of Guild Wars 2, so it's not like, you know, I'm sort of cutting myself off from my community there. But yeah, I have been sort of getting a little bit burnt out from it. So, while this is not an announcement or any stretch of an announcement, I do want to consider the idea of maybe widening my channel to other games and not being specifically geared towards Guild Wars 2. And what a time to think about it, right, on the day that this happens. But I guess it sort of cemented this idea in my head as something that I should look at. So what do you guys think? Like, is this a terrible idea? Like, am I just... Like, here's the thing, right? I don't really play any sort of games that are like Guild Wars 2 other than Guild Wars 2. My sort of favorite kind of games are much more sort of strategy based. And I don't know what the crossover is there between sort of fans. So people that watch, you know, sort of Guild Wars videos, and then people that might watch, you know, stuff on other games, you know, strategy games. I'm talking games like sort of XCOM, RimWorld, you know, sort of Civ 6, you know, stuff like that. Things that are much more, those, like most of the games I play are kind of like that, except you know, obviously Guild Wars being the exception. So is there a crossover there? Am I kidding myself and thinking that people that might want to watch this, who have subscribed to me, you know, for one reason, would bother watching something else? The other thing is my channel, or one thing I've always tried to do with my channel, I don't know if I've actually hit the mark, but I've tried to have unique content, right? So I see people make guides and I want to make a guide that does it in a very different way, or, you know, it's something you won't be able to find on somebody else's channel. It's always what I've tried to aim for. You know, I did those basic guides, which a lot of people mistook for beginner guides, which there are lots of. No, it was a basic guide. It was someone who was really ready to sort of get from casual into sort of more competitive play. But I didn't see anyone making a guide for sort of that, so I sat down and did it. And then the sort of meta builds, the people that make these builds, they announce them, but they don't explain them that well. So I wanted to make a series explaining the meta builds, and that was kind of where I was coming from with that. So my idea was to make unique content. If I was to sort of include other games and stuff like that, it would be much less unique. We'd be talking about things, you know, that you see on thousands of channels. And then is that the kind of content I want to lead myself towards? You know, I'm not really sure. Give me your opinions. I really want to hear from you in the comments on this one. Normally I don't ask people to comment on my videos because it's artificially sort of increasing the channel's visibility, but I really want your opinions on this. Like, am I deluding myself? Am I this is just a niche that I found, and if I tried to sort of do anything else, it would be disastrous. You know, if I was to do some sort of more standard content, I could end up doing much more of it, which is an advantage as well. You know, at the moment I'm doing sort of a vid every few months because I have really limited ideas about what to do in Guild Wars 2 videos. But if I was to sort of move into Let's Plays and things like that, you know, I could do much more. I could do much more of it because it's much easier content to produce. So yeah, I want your opinions on it. Tell me. I mean, I've said that like 8 times already. So you know I mean it, right? Yeah. Maybe I could look at this travesty of a page as well and do something about it. Maybe get a new banner, you know, fix up some stuff. You know, make it into some semblance of a real YouTube channel. Do something with it. Who knows, you know? There's endless possibilities. I mean, not endless, but seemingly endless. Just like this video. Thanks for watching. Tell a friend.